we are joined by Coptic Egyptian Fikry Takla from Perth, Western Australia. Fikry, thank you for joining us.
You're quite welcome.
So can you just share with the viewers your migration story of why you came to Perth, Western Australia?
I came to Australia in 1969, and because I'm a geologist.
Yeah.
The nickel boom was in its peak at the time, and the work for geologists were around Kalgoorlie area where the mining was for the nickel. After that, I started a family, has had little children, so could not go to the bush all the time. So I decided to change career. Did a diploma of education in the University of WA, and from there I've been teaching. I was teaching for 23 years.
All right. What did you teach?
Science, chemistry and physics for high school students, yes.
Okay, and which high schools were you at?
The last one was Padbury Senior High.
Oh, okay. And when you migrated to Australia, did you come out married or as a single man?
We were engaged. My fiancée stayed in Egypt. I came over, got things organised, and then she came after.
Okay.
So about 9 months after.
And how many Coptic families, can you remember, how many Coptic people were there in Perth when you first arrived?
About 2 other families. It was me and these 2 other families.
Can you remember their names?
Yeah, I remember George Wahba.
Yeah.
And Kamal Sawiris. These were the 2 very early Egyptians.
Right, okay. Are they still around?
No, both of them passed away, but
okay.
their families are still here in WA.
So when it was just the three of you, what did you do for church?
Well, we tried few ways. One of them is to ask a priest from the east to come over to WA and conduct a mass for us. But in the end, the Council of Churches joined in and started paying part of the ticket for a priest to come to Perth.
That's kind
once
of
a month.
Yeah,
it was good of him. Yeah, because flying then was a bit expensive.
Yeah.
And for the small number of families here, it was a bit much for us. So the Council of Churches were kind enough to at least pay part of the ticket.
Right. And how often do you think you were having a Coptic priest come to Perth?
I don't remember the exact date, but I think it was in the late 70s, 1970s.
Yeah, and were they coming monthly or bi-monthly?
Once a month they started, and in the end they decided to send a priest permanently to West Australia.
And who was that?
That was Father Theodosius was the first. Theodosius, yeah.
So I think after about 7-8 years of rostered priests from Melbourne and Sydney,
right.
They had Abuna Theodosius for about 6 or 7 years.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right, and he was, I believe, a monk priest.
Yeah, a monk priest.
Right, and he then left Perth and went to Scotland.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. And I think he also did a service
in
Canberra.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and after Abuna Theodosius, my understanding it was Abuna Daniel for 3 years?
Yes, although he was a bit busy, he had worked in the eastern states, and he used to sort of try and fit both WA and the eastern states there.
And that's Abuna Daniel, that's now Amber Daniel of St. Shenouda Monastery.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. And after Abuna Daniel, it was it was Abuna Abram Abdul Malik, who is the current priest
That's right.
of East Victoria Park Church.
That's from Victoria Park.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he's been there now for about 22 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, a long time.
Yes, it is.
And then roughly a few years ago, or I'm not sure when did St Mark and St George Church in Wanneroo get established?
It would have been 8 years now.
Okay.
And now there's a monk that is holding the masses there in Wanneroo.
Right. And how many Coptic families do you think there are now in Perth? Or how big's the community?
I think it's quite reasonable now.
Yeah.
I mean, on a Sunday, the two churches will be full.
Right.
So we've grown a lot.
Yeah. And in terms of this year marks the 50-year anniversary of Abuna Mina Namatala coming to Melbourne and then Sydney to conduct the first Mass in Australia.
That's right.
He did the first one in Melbourne and then he went on to Sydney.
Sydney, yeah.
And he stayed in Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
What comments can you make to viewers about the fact that it's 50 years this year for the Coptic Church in Australia?
Yeah, of course, it's a good thing that to see the number of families increase by that much in that period. It's good. You know, I remember the days when 4 or 5 of us would be attending a mass.
Yes.
You know, now it's 2 churches and they're full.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Yeah. And when you first arrived, did you feel that it was difficult leaving your homeland, or you were just happy you had a good job?
Yeah, because geologists were needed then when I first came. It was the middle of the nickel boom, what they call the nickel boom, and they needed a lot of geologists. So I got a job more or less straight away.
Yeah.
Which I think it was a bit odd. Most migrants battle a lot to get a job, and for me to get a job straight away, of course in a very strange land, going to around Laverton near Kalgoorlie.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah. And did you know any English before you left Egypt?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you knew English.
Yeah. We studied at uni. We studied our study was in English. It was not in Egyptian.
Oh, okay. All right then. And in terms of just a final comments, what do you want to say to the viewers about the next 50 years of the Coptic Church in Australia?
I hope it will grow bigger and bigger. It's. I mean, I know that there's a number of churches in Sydney and there's another lot in Melbourne. Perth, we've got 2 churches, which was undreamed of in the past.
Yeah.
But yes, it's good.
Yeah.
It's growing.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fikry, thank you very much for your time today and taking the time to celebrate and share with the audience the 50th anniversary of the Coptic Church in Australia.
Thanks very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you.